Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Andres. Liga MX semifinals were this weekend. I have videos of my reactions to both semifinal matchups. America versus Chivas, Cruz Azul versus Monterrey. I have those on the channel, so feel free to check those out. But in this episode, I want to talk about two other sports I follow but haven't had the time to make videos on until now. Golf and NASCAR. Yes, I'm a big NASCAR fan. I've been for a while, and I've been watching NASCAR consistently on a yearly basis since the end of the 2014 season for NASCAR. And golf, I've had interest in since I was 9, 10 years old. I still play today during summer and free time whenever I have a full day to do so. So yeah, let's talk about golf and NASCAR. Let's get right into it. So first off, the PGA Championship, one of the four major tournaments in men's golf, happened this weekend, the second major tournament of the year. It came to an end yesterday, and what a great tournament it was in Louisville at Bahia Golf Club. Congratulations, Xander Schauffele, with a finals round that saw him go 6 under par. It put him 21 under par for the tournament. That was the winnings final score for the 4 days to win the PGA Championship. Xander Schauffele's first major title. Congrats to him. After finishing second and third in both the Masters and US Open in 2019 and second in the British Open in 2018, many said that he might not be good enough to win, good enough to contend, but just not there, just didn't have that X factor needed to win a major, and that he would probably not win one. Others saw his past major results and where he finished in those tournaments as it's only a matter of time, and it's not really if, it's when he wins a major. And, well, yesterday it was the latter, and as he has now become a legend of the game and has now joined the club of golfers who have won a major. Byson Dechambeau finished runner-up and really put the pressure on Xander Schauffele in the closing holes. He shot 7 under par in the final round, a really great 18 holes of golf for Dechambeau. Unfortunate that he could not win his second major of his career, but nevertheless showed great sportsmanship and class as he was one of the first to go and congratulate Xander Schauffele after his round. Dechambeau has been in phenomenal form recently, finishing 6th at the Masters and now runner-up in this year's PGA Championship. I feel he is most likely to win a second major, and frankly, I won't be surprised if he wins the US Open in the summer. With that, Xander Schauffele, PGA Champion 2024, he will enter next year as the defending champion. He will receive the 5-year exemption into all the majors, and I believe, let me know in the comments below, I believe he also gets a lifetime exemption as a past champion for the PGA Championship. So that's really great for him. So we'll always see. It looks like we will see him in at least one major every year for the rest of his career from now on, which, very well deserved. Congrats, Xander Schauffele. To me, I think the biggest takeaway is that you can have your cake. You can have your cake and eat it too. Remember when Billy Horschel said that? He opposed LIV Golf. He was very vocal about it, calling it a threat and rival to the PGA Tour, and said, those players can't have their cake and eat it too. Well, it's safe to say that Billy Horschel was wrong on that take because Brooks Koepka won it last year, and he gets another 5-year exemption into all the majors. And Bryson DeChambeau finished runner-up this year, losing by only 1 stroke, which was incredible. What an incredible ending to the tournament. So we'll see him in this tournament next year as well. These guys are still playing in LIV Golf, and they are still competitive. People are saying that, LIV Golf is, it's not a real tournament. It's not true, proper, meaningful golf, and that it would never, prepare you for a true major championship. I'd say that claim and argument against LIV Golf was definitely debunked over the first 2 majors of the year. 3 or 4 finished in the top 10 at the Masters. DeChambeau was the best finisher at the Masters of the LIV golfers. Once again, was the best finisher of the LIV golfers in the PGA Championship, and had an opportunity to win. Xander Schauffele just barely won it at the end. So I think the argument against LIV in terms of the competition factor, I think it's been debunked. I think the debate about LIV Golf being, being weaker competition, I think that's been debunked. I think the debate is over there. And frankly, many fans mentioned this who saw the very first inaugural LIV Golf tournament in London. That was probably the weakest field we will ever see in LIV Golf's history, and since then the league has frankly only gotten stronger. And I think that given how some of the players, the LIV players who have qualified and performed, I think at some point you have to give LIV Golf some sort of world ranking points. I mean, there's some people say they don't fit the criteria, only playing 3 rounds of golf, but I'm pretty sure so does like one of the Latin American tours, but yet they still get some sort of world rankings. So I think, again, it's just a lot. I think there's some, really antitrust, monopoly, shady business going on with the PGA Tour that I really don't like. They're trying to crush their competition, but again, I think LIV Golf is actually kind of elevating the competition, and it's giving players options on where to go. I mean, I think it's no different than what, Cristiano Ronaldo did when he signed for Al Nassr. And, some people criticized the move, some people didn't, because, again, he was a free agent at the time. Golfers are no different. They've historically been independent contractors. So if they want to compete on the LIV Tour, I think they can. If they want to compete on the PGA Tour, I think they can. There's been no problems with PGA Tour players who, have European Tour cards playing on the DP, on what is, for sponsorship reasons, known as the DP World Tour. We've seen Rory McIlroy do it. We've even seen Billy Horschel do it. Shane Lowry, John Rahm, when he was on the PGA Tour. I mean, if there was no problem with that, I think LIV Golf, there should be no problems with LIV Golf. Again, I think, well, granted, because they don't have, 4 rounds of golf and a cut line like the PGA Tour does or the DP World Tour, while I don't believe they should get the same amount of, world ranking points that can help them, qualify for majors like the PGA Tour tournaments or DP World Tour, they should get some sort of world ranking points. Maybe not as much as, what a PGA Tour tournament like the Waste Management Phoenix Open, for example, maybe not as much as what that tournament would give, but maybe like half the points that would give. Like if you did that for LIV Golf and its tournaments, I think that's fair. Again, I think the LIV golfers should not be, excluded. Their pathway for qualifying for these majors should not, be made harder, because frankly, they do elevate the competition, and we've seen that. these last two majors with Byson Dechambeau, and we've even seen it last year with the PGA Championship won by Brooks Koepka. So again, I think it'll be interesting to see in terms of the LIV Golf alliance deal that they claimed recently. They said there would potentially be a pathway for LIV golfers to return back to the PGA Tour and try to play back and forth on them. I hope that does happen. I hope the two leagues do come to peace. 3, adding the DP World Tour, so that it can golf can still be great, and the game can continue to grow, and that the majors can forever be just an amazing spectacle in golf. Moving on to NASCAR. They had the All-Star race this weekend. I'll be honest, if I had to give it a grade on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being, of course, terrible, 10 being absolutely amazing, the race was 5.5 to 6. Granted, it does give a boost, as you see by the hat and the sponsorship. Let me show you. And the front, 2018 champion, Joey Logano. I am a Logano fan. I've been a fan pretty much since 2015. I liked the Fords. I liked the paint scheme. And I grew to like Joey Logano and his driving, especially after he won the Daytona 500. I've been a fan since. In that case, yeah, it does. I'll be honest, in my grading of it, because Logano won, it does get a little bit of a boost. But honestly, let's be real, the racing wasn't as great as it was last year. Logano led 199 of the 200 laps, all but 1 lap in his win. It was very hard to pass on the track. The track got repaved, didn't really enable, much, a wider groove or really more grip on the track in terms of being able to pass. And then NASCAR always experimenting with the tires, one version of a tire than another. Once again, I mean, it felt abysmal. They tried to do the Formula One thing of like having a soft compound tire versus like a harder compound tire. Didn't make a difference. It was still really, really hard to pass. Yeah, but all in all, congrats to Joey Logano. Congrats to Ford. They've had a really, really rough start of the season. The Ford teams, from RFK to Penske themselves, they have really struggled. Joey Logano himself has not had a really good start of the season. Crashed out in the Daytona 500, and pretty much that was the start to a really rough season for him. But nevertheless, he must be feeling he probably feels like $1 million right now. No pun intended, because that's what the winner of okay, I'll own it. Yeah, pun intended. He feels like $1 million because, of course, the All-Star race winner gets $1 million. So yeah, Logano, it's a good win. Positive momentum finally for him, even though it wasn't a points paying race. Maybe it can translate over. And as for Ford and the Ford as a manufacturer in NASCAR, I think this is very positive momentum. Brad Keselowski the week before won the race at Darlington. Chris Buescher was in contention as well. He probably could have won if it wasn't for the incident with Tyler Reddick and the error that happens there. So yeah, it looks like Ford is starting to find something in the car to where they can be competitive again. So hey, we'll see. Hopefully Logano be able to get a win. May my driver get in the playoff. My number 1 driver get in the playoffs. My number 2 driver, Daniel Suarez, won in an epic photo finish in Atlanta. He's another driver I root for as well. So, congrats on Suarez making the playoffs. I might make a season summary video for NASCAR. I don't know. I'll see if I have the time. I remember I will be covering the Copa America and Euros for international football over summer. We'll get to that later. But yeah, overall, it was a very mid-tier race. But the post race was not. So let's put the context in place. So the race started. The drivers took the green flag, went through turns 1 and 2 cleanly, but immediately it appears that near the back of the pack, drivers began to make moves to jockey for position, and Ricky Stenhouse was in the middle of a 3-wide scenario with Michael McDowell inside of him, Kyle Busch in the number 8 outside of him, and again, North Wilkesboro being a 6/10 of a mile track, a short track, it's very tight, not a lot of space, not a lot of room for error. He ended up making contact with Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch was put in the wall. Ty Gibbs had there was like a dash cam, like a car camera view behind them, and it showed that it was really tight. It was a clear racing incident, nothing intentional. Not really much Ricky Stenhouse could have done in that moment with McDowell on his inside and Busch on his outside. He was going to make contact with either one of the cars, and there was just simply nothing he could have done. A racing incident, short track incident as well. I mean, at a tight track like that, it's basically just like Martinsville or Bristol. You're going to trade some paint and, bend some fenders on other cars. Kyle Busch did not take lightly to it and just had no remorse for the scenario, no forgiveness towards Ricky Stenhouse, and the very next lap gets into the back bumper of Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and pits him, straight up wrecks him. Ricky Stenhouse entering turn 1. He crashes into the outside wall. DNF for Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Stenhouse was very frustrated, furious even afterwards, and he said, I'll wait for him because, North Wilkesboro being an old track, there's no tunnels to where he can, go to his trailer, his coach, there was nothing there. So he was just sitting there, in the track infield, just watching the laps go down, and the race unfold. So he had a lot of time to think about, how he would confront Kyle Busch, how he would respond. And so sure enough, after the race, he goes and confronts Kyle Busch, and he says, hey, nothing was intentional. I didn't try to touch you there. It was a racing incident. I never meant to purposely throw you in the wall like that. It was uncalled for what Kyle Busch did. Kyle Busch showed hey, I'm disagreeing with you. Nah, you definitely did that. Did that purposely, questioning his driver skills. Ricky Stenhouse said, watch it again, and just in frustration, throws a punch at Kyle Busch, connects to the side of his head. Fight breaks out. Crew members get involved. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., his dad, Ricky Stenhouse Sr., even got involved and grabbed hold of Kyle Busch. The crew members were there. They got onto the number 8 truck. One of the crew members for the number 8 team for Kyle Busch absolutely, just body slammed some of the 47 guys, just shoving them off the truck. Mayhem ensued after that race, a full-on Donnybrook. And it was just a crazy sight to see because we've never seen that from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He went up, confronted Kyle Busch, a guy who's been historically known as the bad guy, who was, you know, during the late 2000s, early 2010s, known for being the bad guy and wrecking people, getting into controversies. No one's really been wanting to confront him or really mess with that. Ricky Stenhouse did, punched Kyle Busch right in the side of the head, and, well, he got Kyle Busch there. So, overall, who's in the right, who's in the wrong? That's obviously going to be the big take. You know, what's my take on that? Honestly, I don't blame Ricky Stenhouse Jr. for that. That was a cheap shot from Kyle Busch. And, like, look. 3 laps to go in a race. You bump and run, you bump and bang, or you end up bumping and wrecking the guy. In the final 3 laps of the race, that's one thing, because you're competing for the win, and in this case, $1 million. People act differently when $1 million is on the line. That's just the reality. But this was within the first 3 laps. And that was just unexceptional, inexcusable, and a complete overreaction from Kyle Busch. Because the car was still fine. He was still able to drive it. And again, it was a racing deal. They were put in 3 wide. What more could you ask Stenhouse to do there? So again, it was a really just totally uncalled for move by Kyle Busch. And the fact that he showed, no responsibility, was kind of chuckling when Stenhouse confronted him. I'm sorry, dude. I can't defend you here. It was coming. It was straight up coming for you, man. And that just whole fight pretty much summed up Kyle Busch's season so far, which has really not been Kyle Busch this year has not been the same Kyle Busch we've seen during his time in Joe Gibbs Racing, when he was arguably in his prime, winning the championship in 2015, winning it in 2019, I believe. This is just a different Kyle Busch, not as competitive with RCR this year. And you could even argue last year it was kind of like, even though he won a couple of races, wasn't the same either. And, this overreaction just shows, maybe it's time, dude. Maybe it's time to retire, because let's be real, that was a tantrum from Kyle Busch. That was a straight up tantrum, uncalled for, inexcusable, and frankly, based on the precedent set by 2 previous incidents, Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott and Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch should be suspended for at least 1 race for it. He should. It was unacceptable. It was a dirty move on his part, an overreaction that, again, the fact that he had no regret about it was just unbelievable and just frankly disrespectful. Again, final 3 laps of a race, that's one thing. In the first 3 laps of a race, that's just not cool. That was unacceptable. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this. I do wonder if it will spill over into next week, or if NASCAR will step in and say, hey, any beef between you guys, anybody gets intentionally wrecked between the 2 of you, there will be very hefty penalties. We'll see. But in my opinion, I do think if NASCAR doesn't step in and give a penalty to Kyle Busch and suspend him for a race, I think, they should just stay out of it. And frankly, let Ricky Stenhouse take it into his own hands. Let's be honest, Kyle hasn't really had any accountability in the past for this, with the exception of the one time with Joey Logano. He got into a fight with Logano, and Logano and his crew ended up getting the best of Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch ended up walking out with the bloody floor head on that one. yeah, frankly, it was coming for Kyle. And, you know, with him no longer in his prime and him getting into a fight and overreacting over something that was clearly a racing incident and just having a tantrum over what was clearly just something a part of short track racing. Yeah, maybe it's time to retire, Kyle. Maybe it's time to retire. So that's my take on that. It'll be interesting to see what happens, how NASCAR will address it, whether they don't address it, and maybe we see payback from Ricky Stenhouse Jr. towards Kyle Busch. It'll be interesting to see. Anyway, that's it for this sports talk episode. Let me know in the comments below. And if you like the content, of course, leave a like and subscribe. Help grow the Passion Project. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.